Anyways.
All right.
Jeff has been replaced today by a chicken.
No. So quick aside.
A very angry chicken that has been goosed.
So I grew up on the farm. And one of the things that my dad was very proud of, we had an old Lincoln rod welder. It was steel rod, and it was just basically a giant solid ball of copper that we would weld everything with. We made everything because we welded everything. And
like you do.
As a result of that, when I was freshly like 18, 19 out of high school, one of the jobs that I had was I used to build cattle trailers for Wilson Trailer. And I was a welder. I was the gate guy. I welded the gates in the gooseneck trailers. That's what I did. And when I was thinner, my Adam's apple stuck out quite a lot. So this is me fat, and that's how much it sticks out. And one of the guys on my team,
I don't have one of those. And
no, you don't.
Devere, you can't see it, so
That's good.
never mind.
That's good.
No, and he said it looks kind of like a turkey thing. I always forget what the hell it's called. The gobbler, I'll call it.
The gobbler bits?
So I would actually.
Your turkey gobbler's hanging out.
They called me Gobbles because I was like, "Oh, is it weird?" He's like, "It kind of freaks me out. It's like really jagged, and it looks like it really hurt." And I was like,
Did you tell him what the cluck?
"No." Oh, I definitely chased him with the cluck. He was a huge guy. Chewy reminds
That's
me of him.
amazing.
He was a physically imposing gentleman. Anyways, how do you guys?
Welcome to Top Cluck.
How do you guys want to start this one?
Sorry, Jay. Sorry, Brian.
So, how about them keycaps, Derry?
Oh,
It's so cute when you try to do a Midwest accent.
Oh,
Oh.
I guess we're starting.
all right. So,
You already started.
so
Oh, dear.
You can edit this
dear.
out so much. I don't even.
Oh, I'm not.
No,
This
no,
is
it's-
gold.
it's gold.
We're
It's
leaving
going in.
this.
all right.
This is
So,
gold.
about keycaps, we got a lot to say.
Yeah,
So
we
we'll
should
start
But
with.
before we tell anybody about keycaps, we should tell them to like and subscribe to see more of the silliness. And hit that notification bell down. Go down to the left, right, center, down. Yes. Hit the notification bell so you can get notified when we have more of this craziness. Yeah. So
If you
anyway,
can stand it.
So and keycaps.
Yeah, if you can stand it.
All
All right. So, if you want to talk about keycaps in general, right? I think you kind of got to start with mounts because everybody has different types of keyboards, but there's some common ones, some less common ones, some vintage ones. And realistically, there's like 3 options that you're gonna have, right? You have MX mount, which is in our hobby.
Yes, it's like a cruciform.
There will be pictures somewhere. So it's like
we'll do the thing.
it's like a cross, and then you have Alps, which is like a rectangle, and then you have Topra, which is like, I don't know, something.
It's a cruciform with a circle around it, so it looks the same, but it's not.
Well, that's really like when it's converted into MX mount.
I know nothing about Topra because I dislike it. So
Yeah,
there's
that-
Topra mount. There's Topra mount.
I have one Topra board that I'm literally about to sell. It'll be the 3rd keyboard I've ever sold, and it is converted to MX. So I only know what the stabilizer one looks like, but it's like a rectangle that's vertical.
Oh,
So you want to know a fun fact about Josh's stream logo?
mm-hmm.
It's an Alps.
It is.
It's an Alps switch.
So the center rectangle in mine is literally the Alps profile mount. So basically,
Mine's
Alps.
an L.
Yours is an L. That's true. That's
A
true.
nice
It's
L.
pretty cool. I like it. But it's not a keycap
It's
mount.
one L of a logo.
It's an
Oh,
Alps.
oh,
Oh, that was a bad one. Okay. So
We're funny tonight.
take it.
oh, we should move on.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Size. Right.
Okay, so
Size matters.
size does matter. And how do I know what keycaps will fit what switches? This is a big question that I know Josh gets on the stream a lot. Jeff,
You mean
I'm
like
sure you get this question too.
whether it'll support your layout, right? So whatever
Right,
board you have.
so exactly. So if I want Alps Browns and I want to pair it with some other keycap, how do I know it's going to fit?
Oh, well, you have to look
And
at
I don't buy my dream keycaps, and then all of a sudden my dreams come crashing down around me when I find my keycaps don't fit my switches.
Yeah, so I mean that comes down to the mount, like we were talking about, right? So the MX has the cruciform, Alps has that rectangle,
and then also layout too, right? Like I can't just buy a normal keycap set and fit this board. Like
perfect.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that, you know. So it's a good question. Really, we probably will have an entire video just on that specific topic. So
yeah, we will have one about layouts.
Yeah.
But in general, keycaps themselves come in all sorts of different sizes. They come in different row profiles. If you have a sculpted keycap set, we'll get into that in a second. And then they're going to support being in a certain location on your keyboard. So you have to buy a keycap set that has support for your keyboard. And if you just get like ANSI 104, if you're in our hobby and you have like some weird layout, like you have a Alice layout or something, right? Your keycaps, you probably do not have all the correct keycaps to go on this and the correct row profiles.
Yeah, I mean, it's still it's possible.
Maybe you do.
Really, maybe you do. So,
but probably you don't.
More of a case by case basis, really, like specific to each
layout. And we'll have a full episode on keycap layouts and stuff like that. So
and we also covered ANSI and ISO in our keyboard layouts. What are those episodes?
That's true. So, but from there, right? We just touched on sculpted versus. Well, we talked about sculpted, but there's also within the keycap profile realm, there's sculpted keycaps, and then there's flat keycaps or non-sculpted, right? Which means
so just real quick as we talk about profiles, we mean how the keycaps are viewed from the side. So like not how they look like this, but how they would look like this. Okay. So when we say that, that's what we mean. Okay. So sculpted would have a sculpt to it in some way, in some of them,
or a
dish. One of these, or a dish. But uniform obviously is then the same. But so that doesn't mean that it's flat. It just means that it's the same profile all the way across.
Yeah, but
a very flat would be a chiclet style, wouldn't it? And
or G20 or something garbage.
We don't talk about those.
Yeah. So either way, right?
They don't like those.
There are some common keycap profiles, however, and there's an image somewhere on your screen now that talks about exactly what the common side profile images are. Basically, there's a bunch of different layouts, right? But the kind of common ones that we deal with a lot in our hobby are Cherry, which is the very most common. And we'll get into manufacturers and we'll briefly touch on which manufacturers do which profiles, but not too in depth. So you're going to find Cherry, you're going to find SA, which is heavily sculpted. You're going to find DSA, which is completely uniform keycap set, meaning every 1U keycap will fit in every other 1U keycap's position and be in the correct row profile. Then you have Cam, you have Cat, you've got some others, but it gets a little less common and a little more obscure when you move on to the other ones. Even those last two are relatively obscure for now.
And really the best, I think, outside of the image that we have shared here, one of the best ways for you to get a good comparison is just to Google it. Like, I mean, to be candid, because there's so many pictures that compare profiles with one another. I mean, we're not going to spend an hour talking about it right now, just because there are so many different profiles.
If you Google image search,
really good comparison maps out there too.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, so moving on from there, right? There's also a bunch of materials that keycaps are made out of. So you end up with things like PBT, things with ABS. Those are the most common.
Plastics we're talking about,
plastics.
By the by.
Yeah. So there's also other rare materials, metals, woods, resins,
rare types of plastics too. Like it's just there's the two main guys,
but
right?
by and large,
gals,
but by and large, like
they want to identify.
99.9% of keycaps that exist in the world are made out of PBT or ABS. The end. So I think that there's like this question about which one is better Or
which one is better? Inquiring minds would like to know.
It's a really common question, right? Which one is better? But the truth is it's a personal preference thing. It really is, just like colors or anything else. Mm-hmm. There are some distinct advantages and disadvantages of each of the plastics, but in general, it really comes down to preference.
There's the feel of the caps. You know, some people far prefer PBT and that texture, and even different PBT manufacturers, which, you know, we can talk about in a second, have a different feeling to the caps, right? PBT won't shine. So after heavy use, ABS plastic will get a very shiny appearance where, you know, the combination of your fingers and oils will literally rub it smooth.
Yeah.
Right. So
they slowly eat away at the material itself over time. Because it's less chemically resistant. With PBT, you don't get that, but with PBT, typically you find a slightly smoother feel to start than with ABS. That's common, although that really has to do with the molding process for it. But you get some other advantages with one material over another. Like with ABS, you can do double shot, which we'll talk about briefly in a second. But you can't really do that well and reliably with PBT. But with PBT, you're going to primarily be doing dye sublimation, which you could do with ABS, but typically you don't find.
Yeah, and these are techniques of getting the legends onto the keycaps, so the letters or the symbols on the keycaps. And so, your double shot, which I think this is a good segue, as long as you're okay with it.
No. Legends.
Sorry.
Oh dear.
Oh, absolute legend. So your double shot is literally a double shot mold where there is, you know, the letter is one plastic and the rest of the keycap is another. There are some that do, you know, JTK right now is a manufacturer that's doing triple shot, right? Like they have the capability to do molds to do that. That's less common, but can and has been done. Especially ABS, you're going to see that very, very frequently. And then whereas dye sublimation, that's commonly more used with PBT. I can't think of an ABS cap that's dye sublimated. I don't even know if that's a thing that they would want.
I'm sure it's happened.
I'm sure it has. The reason that these are the two main styles of how you get legends on keycaps, at least in the custom world. And the reason that they're far preferred is because your legend will never go away through usage, right? I mean, if you ground the keycap down, it would eventually go away. But through use, you're never going to take that off.
With dye sublimation, if you ground it away, it would go away. With double shot, you'd have to eat away through the entire keycap. But generally speaking, even your fingers, even regular wear, will never even take off dye sublimation. It's a pretty permanent thing. There are, however, a couple methods of applying those legends that are not permanent, that absolutely can wear independently of the keycap substrate itself, right? So you're going to find things like pad printing, which is where you've literally printed something onto the top of it, which can eat away faster than the material of the keycap.
You see that a lot with laptops.
You do, right? and vintage stuff, and some modern stuff, but it's not super common. And sometimes with sub legends. So, for instance, some really popular ABS keycap manufacturers have pad printing processes for sub legends. You have some other ones that wear quickly also, like laser engraving tends to
you see that a lot with your gamer boards, right? Like your OEM kind of boards, right?
Where they look sharp and crisp right at first, or relatively sharp and crisp to other inexpensive
sets.
You have
those Cheeto crumbs on your hands for too long.
Oh yeah, I mean you can't. The Cheetos, they're gonna
spill a little code red on it, and get some Cheeto dust in there.
A little bit of
trash.
So perfect. It's high voltage now, right? The orange one, isn't that the gamer fuel?
Oh,
yeah. Oh my god,
G Fuel.
That monster really gets in there. Tell you what.
So
here's a question I didn't think of earlier. Solarized keycaps or solarized plastic, where it's
solarized
blacklight react. I think it's either blacklight reactive or actually like.
Yeah, that usually has to do specifically with the dye that's used, or I guess I mean, yeah, you have to put like a reactive dye into the plastic, right? Like you've seen entire keycaps that are molded that way to be glow in the dark or reactive in some way, but that's
so it's
that's
molded
not
that way.
common in our world. Yeah,
no, I can think of 2 sets that have that off the top of my head.
Yeah,
it does exist. It's pretty uncommon.
But it looks really cool.
Yeah, but you're unlikely to find it in very many custom keycap sets.
Sure.
Mostly because it's not super desired, and typically double shooting a translucent plastic means double shooting something like PBT or something like that, which you don't find a lot. I'm not saying that's the only way. I'm just saying that has happened before in the OEM world more than anything else, and you don't get the quality there. So
I think one thing that we could talk about as we segue into keycap manufacturers is, this is intended for you if you're newer to the hobby, or even if you just have always kind of struggled understanding what the point is with all of these damn profiles and manufacturers and legend types. If
you feel like saying, get off my lawn.
Well, no, the common thing that confuses so many new people is there are so many damn keycap set group buys or interest checks. How do I know what the hell to buy? Okay, and the reason you see so many is because GMK is a German manufacturer. They produce double shot ABS keycaps in cherry profile. They are easily the number one favorite. Okay, so a lot of the
hobby
in our hobby. Right, in our hobby, Tai-Hao clearly makes way more keycaps than them overall, but so they're far preferred in the custom community. But outside of that, you have other manufacturers like Signature Plastics. They make 4 or 5 different profiles just in that one manufacturer in different plastic types. Okay, so
and they're an American company,
which is great. They're small. I've met them at meetups.
Me too.
They're very nice. But so to answer the question of why are there so many damn keycap sets, it's because so many people have different preferences. So to go back to Josh's point about how do I know which is better, it's preference, and that's why you see so many. Is somebody wants a reverse dye sublimated set in cat. So like cat, explosion is a set that I can think of that's going to be almost all over reverse dye sub, and that's a sculpted PBT profile. Like it's just.
But typically speaking, though, right, you're going to find, at least in our community, that people seem to think that the 2 highest quality manufacturers are GMK and Signature Plastics. That doesn't necessarily reflect the opinion of this group here specifically. I actually do believe that the next couple most common keycap manufacturers on the list, so probably JTK and EPBT, at least within our hobby, they make things that are incredibly high quality. EPBT
and
actually
has gotten a bad rap, but as of recently they've definitely gotten
it's better. Improved a lot. And then EPBT, as an example, you would think they only do PBT based on their name, but they've just started doing double shot ABS, and I've seen their examples, and it's very high quality. So I would recommend that instead of buying into hype
of the group,
that's true.
Like, yeah.
As somebody who prefers DSA keycaps, I wish there were more options for sets. So, GMK, there's a lot out there.
You mean for colorways?
For colorways, for just
different manufacturers.
Different manufacturers, different options. Yeah. It's just there's a far smaller number of appealing, at least to me. And again, I know it's a preference thing. Appealing key sets to me in that profile, and that's my preferred profile. But
and that's so those are primarily made by Signature Plastics, along with SA. Although there are other companies that make both of those profiles, and it's important to remember really briefly. I want to keep on the manufacturers thing, but it is important to remember that most of these profiles, not all, don't have any kind of patent on them, and could technically be made by many manufacturers. So JTK, for instance, primarily makes cherry profile. I believe cherry.
They also
something very close to cherry, if not.
Theoretically, could they patent a profile?
I mean, they currently, at least as far as I know, have the models on HSA, which is a half height SA profile.
They do,
and that has not been shared. But once they have some success behind it, they themselves have said we'll release the models. So I would assume that anyone else could then just make it. So
either way, the most common profile, right, is cherry. So you'll find that most of these manufacturers, with the exception of Signature Plastics and Taihao, make cherry profile keycaps in one form or another. So beyond there, right, you go to EPBT, they're all cherry. They make double shot ABS and dye sublimated PBT. Then you get to Infinikey, who does dye sublimated PBT and reverse dye sublimated.
Just cherry, right?
Yeah, just cherry, I think, for them. And then you get to Taihao, which has their own profile, which is somewhat similar to cherry or OEM, but a little bit steeper.
It's like it's like right in between the two.
I like it. I actually think that they represent a segment of the market where the value is very high.
Huge.
Basically, with Taihao, you find this underserved segment of the market, or the people who want to get into more expensive keycaps but are kind of afraid to spend $200-$300 on a keycap set. You find them buying it and finding out that both in PBT and ABS, they make some fairly high quality things for the price, though you have very limited compatibility, which is kind of the opposite of Infinikey, who has a huge amount of compatibility, right? They're not too expensive either. And they represent a good quality.
$90 range,
Yeah, more expensive.
Really, again, it's preference, right? Like me, I want a ton of plastic for the money I spend, at a moderately high quality, right? So I'm a fan of your JTKs, your EPBTs, your Infinikeys. I also own and love GMK and Signature Plastic sets, but that costs more money per key because the quality's more, right? Yep. So
and because smaller production quantities.
Yep.
So I agree with you, but from there you pretty much dive into the land of Ducky and less, right? And Ducky, if you were like on a super tight budget and you wanted something that just supported maybe 104 ANSI and you wanted shine through, let's say, which is super uncommon with all those others, maybe I would say to somebody, hey, you should consider Ducky. But honestly, I wouldn't recommend that. And anything lesser quality than that is pretty much right out as far as I'm concerned.
It's just hot garbage. Yeah. I mean, if you're spending $10 on a full cap
basura
set,
caliente,
muy caliente.
Oui.
God.
Yeah. So
it's now Wednesday, which is the best Spanish word in my opinion. Miércoles. So anyway.
Yeah. So,
but then there's like a myriad vintage profiles that we can't cover in one conversation. No. There are also some rare, very, very desirable ones, not by me, but others. There's Topra High Profile that I don't know what that sculpt is like, but I assume it's similar to SA. There's MT3 we haven't covered. There's
a ton,
a whole lot.
There's a ton, and with vintage stuff, I think you're gonna find that you get a lot more Alps support, some obscure Topra support, although I don't know how vintage that really counts as. Where do we draw the line with vintage? But with the vintage things,
I think they were founded in like 98 or 99. So
yeah, so semi-vintage.
Does that make it vintage?
Definition, well, it's 20 years, right? Is assumed vintage, 20 years or more.
They just got there
technically early.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
Does that make us vintage?
Oh.
That
makes all these things are vintage.
No, they are vintage.
But that actually, the conversation about special keycaps, I think maybe is a good way to get into our last topic, Josh. Artisans.
Oh, that's not a thing we can cover personally at all.
We're gonna have to call in some experts for that one.
Yeah, we're gonna have a whole completely other segment on artisans. But generally speaking, I have one here.
Ooh.
Is that a Keepora?
Can you guys talk about Rama caps, or is that also going to belong in the artisan?
Those fit into artisans, kind of.
Okay.
I mean, they do technically.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation because it'll be its
is that like a midway between?
No, it's not midway between. It is artisan. It's just a little bit more. It's machine produced, typically.
Machine versus handmade,
as far as I know.
Yeah. So. Yeah,
we'll have to call in some experts for the artisan episode.
So we'll have a completely different segment on that, and within that there will be a bunch. I think I have that exact thing. A customer gave it to me. Anyway, so while those will get their own episodes, I hope that we covered a little bit of your concerns and interests as far as knowing more about keycaps are concerned. If you didn't get your question answered, please comment below and ask whatever questions you have, and we will attempt to answer them.
Yeah, we'll do our best. Do the thing with the bell.
Like,
right?
subscribe, notification bell, and definitely put something in the comments, and we will either respond to you in the comments or cover it in another episode.
I think that's time to end.
So, it's time, guys.
We've been Cal&Opes.
Cal&Opes.
Later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
What is that? What is happening?
Oh, it's a chicken.
What is going on? Hello,
it's a chicken.
Friend.
Did you give them names yet?
No names.
You have chickens? How much fun is that?
It's so cool, dude. They're so cool.
I was just talking today to my two boys about how chickens are related to dinosaurs, and they were like, their minds like exploded.
Is it going to be upset that you flipped it over?
Like, please don't shit on my Rukia.
Maybe don't hold it over the Rukia and don't startle it. Have you been able to tell if it's a girl or a boy?
They don't have control over their cloaca, not like that.
All four of them are girls.
Yay! Excellent.
It's gonna be excellent in like 10 months.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have the two older ones still there yet or not?
No, these are the only ones here. Because the older ones will peck at them. There's gonna be a coop soon.
There's Clicky and Clucky.
God. One of them I call Narky because it just falls asleep when I hold it this way. This isn't the one.
That's so funny.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording now.
Okay, good call.